Welcome to a news of the day type video. This shouldn't be that long. This should be a rather quick one. We'll see. So the NHL and the NHLPA are having their daily negotiations. One thing that we reported not too long ago was the NHL wants to have 28 players on a roster, 28 skaters, and then goaltenders, and that's still up for negotiation. Now, if you're the NHL Players Association, do you want more players on the roster or fewer? Do you want to change the way the taxi squads work? And this is where I'm really glad that the NHL and the NHLPA have to work together. That it's not like what we're seeing in baseball right now, which is two sides pretty far apart and not even speaking the same language. It reminds me of negotiations between the NHL Players Association and the NHL before salary cap, where you would listen to both sides and you go, wow, these guys are not seeing at all the same thing. This is absolutely not working at all. These guys don't seem to be talking to one another. They're talking at one another. And then when we'd have a shutdown, we wouldn't be surprised. So this is, again, another example of how I'm optimistic we won't see a shutdown next year. I can't see how we do. Not for collective bargaining agreement any reasons anyways. And every team has their own phase 2 plan. I was looking through it. Boston's hasn't been revealed yet. Whatever the plan is for Washington, they have enough players, they think, to get things going. Pittsburgh has enough players to get things going. But Toronto, they're conducting actual COVID tests prior to phase 2 beginning, which I think most teams probably will. But again, each team's kind of on their own with this. And the Canucks aren't opening anything until players need the training facilities. I would think that after players were told they could go home, that they weren't necessarily having to shelter in place in Vancouver, and that they were, allowed to go home. I would think that a majority of these players may very well not even be in Canada, and so it's going to be interesting to see how that works, because again, there are European players that need to come over. The NHL looking at training camp on July 10th is the date they're wanting to have everything set to go and start up the training camps. But again, it's going to depend on players coming in from Europe and being able to make sure it's as fair a process as possible. But not all teams are handling it the same. Kyle Okposo, the reason for me wearing this Buffalo jersey, having right knee surgery. He's out 6 weeks, so he will not be partaking in this process. Now, for people who are going to say, well, why is he having the surgery now? Because a lot of elective surgeries were held off. So elective surgeries were put aside to make sure that hospitals were able to have the capacity for any COVID-related issues that were going to happen. And so far, things seem to be getting better in certain spots. And so in certain spots, we're seeing that you're able to have elective surgeries. That's my guess anyways. So we'll probably see other players having surgeries, I would think, over the next couple of weeks. Again, with the goal of being healthy once we return to hockey in August. In Okposo's case, it doesn't really matter. It's Buffalo. They're not going to be playing anyways. But 6 weeks from now, he can at least be on skates. He could be out at a training facility and getting himself into some sort of shape for whenever the Buffalo Sabres are going to play again, which could be January, right? And that's where we're going to come back to that, because that's where things get kind of interesting. Now, with everything that we're talking about, there's an interview with Jerome McGinley where, again, he's saying, hey, I never had a lot of these racial slurs thrown in my direction as a player in the National Hockey League. There was an incident in the minors which his parents dealt with that he didn't hear. Apparently there's something shouted in the crowd that his family dealt with. He didn't hear it, though. And he feels very fortunate. He does. He feels very fortunate that things went that way. And I hear this and I think, for Ginla, it may be because of his stature. And it may be because of the style of hockey he played and the goals he scored that he may not have had that same amount of mistreatment as other players have since then and before then. And of course, the big question that I've seen this not just talking about on the hockey side of things, but elsewhere. What the hell are you doing here being thrown at fans of hockey who may not be white? And just in general, what are you doing? You don't belong here. Why not? So, again, it's one thing I noticed, and I was kind of happy about this when I was in Vegas, when I was looking around the arena, and I remember saying to my wife, there are a lot of minorities in this crowd. When in comparison with other crowds that I'd been in, whether it was in Vancouver, whether it was in my hometown in Chilliwack, wherever it was. I said, that's actually pretty cool. And I did. I thought that was really cool, and I thought, this shows that the NHL can make inroads, but they have to bring down the cost of playing the game too. And that's something they're going to look at as well. And so we'll see what comes out of that. We'll circle back. Now, there are people who are not happy about the idea of hockey being played into the summer. This could be reality going forward. And there's a reason for that. So remember 2012 when we had a lockout that wiped out the first 3 months of the season? Apparently part of the reason for that is because hockey doesn't sell very well between October and December. It's a crowded space. They don't make the same amount on ad revenues, and attendance gets better in January and beyond, and there's more excitement about hockey January and beyond. So we could very well see a schedule change for the National Hockey League, where we could see hockey throughout the summer going forward. At the very least, for the next couple of years, we could see that. And here's the problem. Here's where it gets tough for those of us hockey fans and purists that would love to see the Stanley Cup awarded at the very latest, June 3rd. And that's where I look at it, where I'm like, you know what? I liked it better when the Stanley Cup was awarded very early in June. We could see it going through the summer if the ratings are up, if the attendance is up, if fan excitement is up. The NHL might say, you know what? This is a pretty good schedule for us. This works out pretty darn well. And so we'll see. But apparently the NHL makes more money from January on when it comes to their hockey games. And if an 82-game schedule has excitement all the way through, we'll see, right? Now, of course, a shortened season definitely increases excitement as well. I would be in favor of a shortened season myself. The NHL owners less so, because that puts less money in their pockets. Now, the NHL, in regards to what we're seeing going on, is creating 4 different committees to look into equality issues when it comes to hockey and in the National Hockey League. So we'll be covering this as it goes forward, because again, this is the conversation. Tyler Seguin out at a rally yesterday, and depending on how you look at it, either that was great or it's a photo op. If he doesn't take a picture, people would say, prove you were there. If he does take a picture, they'd be like, oh, it's a photo op. And of course, then there's people too going, this is just ridiculous, and stick to hockey and all that. I get that too, but this is a time where people are speaking out, and we're seeing some of the ugly side of it too. Tara Sloan was posting today about how it feels like some of the really outspoken, disagreeable people seem to be out in force right now on Twitter, and I agree. And I don't think it's just there. I've definitely seen it on Facebook. I've seen it on here as well, and just in general. And I'm not sure exactly where that's coming from, but I will say this: a lot of people have lost jobs this year. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of economic hardship, and now we're piling on top of it. And I think that people who might otherwise just not speak, I think they're speaking. In some cases, it's good, and in some cases, probably better not heard. I also think that one thing people need to understand with Twitter is one of the first things I look at when it's a really nasty comment or it's something really offensive, I will look at the profile of that person, and if they have 10 followers, they have 0 followers, and they're following nobody, I go, I ignore it, because it's just there just to troll. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. And of course, after the video I made yesterday, not because of the video I made yesterday, EA Sports is finally taking action on the NHL server against some of the more offensive names that are out there. I don't care how long they've been on it. I don't care how long that's been going on. And honestly, seeing people defending it, I have for years thought, well, no, we don't really have that problem in hockey. That's not really, I see it when it comes to, pro football fans and definitely in other sports. We really have, it's not a big problem in hockey. It's a very small number. And I'm starting to think that from what I saw with the NHL 20 and just some of this stuff, I'm going, maybe it's not as small of a problem as I thought. So it is definitely a time where we're having those conversations. And it's never simple. It is never simple. But 2020 has been a very, very interesting year. And then I saw some news today, too, that wasn't NHL related, where I went, wow, 2020 is going to get even more interesting. I'm just stunned by how interesting 2020 is going to get. Again, it's not hockey related, so I'm not going to talk about it here. Probably won't talk about it on the Entertainment Guy channel either. So yeah, there you go. News of the day. Keep safe. Stay safe wherever you're at. Make sure that you're doing your best to do all the washing your hands, all that other stuff that we need to be doing. And because again, with everything else that's going on, it's kind of easy to lose sight of that. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And yeah, 2020's been one heck of a year, and it doesn't look like it has any intentions of going away until apparently December is when the year ends this year. I'm trying to get it moved up, but apparently that's not going to happen. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.